The American middle class, once the envy of the world, is teetering on the brink. The numbers paint a stark picture. Nearly two-thirds of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, a staggering statistic that reveals the fragility of middle-class life. This isn't an accident. It's the result of deliberate policy choices designed to benefit the wealthy few at the expense of the many. This essay will pull back the curtain on these policies, exposing the rigged system that keeps the middle class trapped in a cycle of financial struggle. This isn't about some abstract economic theory. This is about real people, your neighbors, your families, struggling to keep their heads above water. We're talking about teachers working 2 jobs to make ends meet, firefighters relying on food banks, and nurses unable to afford the healthcare they provide. This is the reality of the middle-class crisis. One of the most insidious ways the system is rigged is through our regressive tax code. It's a system where the more you earn, the less you pay proportionally. The middle class bears the brunt of this unfair system, shouldering a heavier tax burden than the wealthiest Americans. Think about it. While corporations and billionaires enjoy loopholes and deductions, hard-working families are left footing the bill for essential services. It's like being stuck with the check after a lavish dinner you couldn't afford, while the guy in the Armani suit walks out without paying a dime. The American dream promises a good life through hard work and education, but the cost of education has skyrocketed, leaving graduates buried in debt. This isn't just about college. Even trade schools and vocational programs come with a hefty price tag. The promise of upward mobility through education is becoming increasingly out of reach. We're forcing young people to mortgage their futures before they even start their careers. It's like asking someone to run a marathon with a piano strapped to their back. This isn't just bad for graduates, it's bad for our economy. When young people are crippled by debt, they're less likely to start businesses, buy homes, or contribute to the economy in meaningful ways. Healthcare costs in the United States are astronomical, often forcing families to choose between paying for medical bills and putting food on the table. The lack of affordable, accessible healthcare is a constant source of stress and financial strain for the middle class. It's a cruel irony. The richest country in the world can't seem to figure out how to provide basic healthcare to its citizens. Meanwhile, people are forced into bankruptcy, forced to ration their medication, or forced to forego treatment altogether. This isn't healthcare, it's a hostage situation. Section 5. Wages on hold the stagnation situation. Despite increases in productivity and worker output, wages have remained stagnant for decades. The middle class is working harder than ever, but their paychecks aren't keeping pace with the rising cost of living. This wage stagnation is a direct result of policies that favor corporate profits over worker well-being. It's a classic bait and switch. We were promised that a rising tide lifts all boats, but the reality is that the yachts are sailing away with the windfall, while the rowboats are stuck in the muck. Section 6. Globalization's impact, winners and losers. Globalization has led to cheaper goods and services, but it has also resulted in job losses and wage suppression. Trade agreements that prioritize corporate interests over worker protections have contributed to the decline of the American middle class. We're told that globalization is inevitable, like the weather. But here's the thing about the weather. We study it, we prepare for it, and we try to mitigate its worst effects. We can do the same with globalization. We can demand fair trade deals that protect workers' rights and environmental standards. Section 7. Deregulation's fallout, a house of cards. The deregulation of financial markets, often touted as a way to unleash economic growth, has instead created a system prone to instability and crises. The 2008 financial crisis is a prime example of how deregulation can devastate the middle class. wiping out savings and leaving families struggling to recover. Deregulation is like removing the speed limit signs and guardrails from a winding mountain road. Sure, it might feel exhilarating for a while, but it's only a matter of time before someone goes careening off the cliff. And who do you think is most likely to be in the passenger seat when that happens? Section 8. Future uncertainties, looming threats. The challenges facing the middle class are not limited to the present. Automation and artificial intelligence threaten to displace millions of workers, while rising housing costs driven by investment firms are making home ownership increasingly unattainable. These trends, combined with a debt-based economy, create a perfect storm for future economic instability. We're standing on the precipice of a future where robots take our jobs, Wall Street landlords price us out of our homes, and the entire economy teeters on the brink of collapse. It's a dystopian nightmare, but it's the reality we're facing if we don't act now. Section 9. A call to action, reclaiming our future. The decline of the middle class is not inevitable. It is a policy choice. We can choose to create an economy that works for everyone, not just the wealthy few. This requires a fundamental shift in our priorities, demanding policies that promote economic justice and shared prosperity. We need to demand tax fairness, affordable healthcare, quality education, and a living wage for all. We need to hold our elected officials accountable for creating a system that benefits the many, not just the few. This isn't about left versus right. It's about right versus wrong. It's time to reclaim the promise of the American dream for this generation and generations to come.